What's going on, Tamers? It's your local probability and statistical genius for Digimon, and today I want to talk about a problem that I feel like a lot of new players have when they're just starting the game and they're trying to build their first deck. And that is, what amount of each card do I run? You know, how many level 3s do I run? How many level 4s do I run? What should be some of my splits? How many Tamers? How many options? That sort of thing. So, while it's really difficult to give a blanket statement for every single deck, because, you know, things in the meta change, there's some cards that are more potent or more useful, depending on the archetypes. But what I can do is I can give you a really simple and basic outline for a standard mid-range deck in Digimon, and then after that, you can take those rules that I've given you and break them, depending on whatever kind of deck you want to run. To do that, let's take a look at some of the cards that I have, or some of the decks that I have as an example. So, taking a look at some of the cards here, I've got two decks actually. I've got the first, which is going to be my blue-green Vmon Imperial Dramon deck, and then on the bottom here, I've got my basic Solo-Red Jesmon deck. To answer some of the really basic questions that are out there, how many of each level card should I run? This includes Tamers and options as well. So, a really basic outline that I have for every mid-range deck that I build are the following numbers here. So, you've got your level 3s. I run about 13 to 16 of those. Your level 4s, anywhere between 11 to 13. Your level 5s, 8 to 10. I typically err on the side of 10 just because I feel like myself especially, I just get hoed whenever I try to run just 8 level 5. So I put the extra 2 in there just so I can have more consistent draws. Moving on to level 6s and level 7s together. I count these together because in a mid-range deck, you're typically not going to run a ton of level 7. So I kind of combine the upper echelon into one group, and 4 to 6 total. Moving on to Tamers. In non-Tamer-centric decks, for example, like hybrids, I run basically 2 to 4 Tamers. And then finally, for options, I run, depending on what the effects in the deck are like, and what the Digimon in the deck are like, or what the deck does, I typically run between 0 and 4 options, where in this Jesmon deck's case, we run a couple more, but I'll talk about why we do that in a little bit. So the thing that I really want to focus on is, especially for a mid-range deck, what you're going to want to have right off the bat to start any game successfully are level 3s. So we run between 13 to 16 level 3s because I want to make sure that in my opening hand, I always have a level 3. Now you're probably wondering, well, East, if you're running 13 to 16 level 3s in a deck, what are your chances of actually getting a level 3 in your opening hand? I'm glad you asked. You know, by leveraging something called hyperdistribution, you can find the probabilities of getting a level 3 in your opening hand. To do this, all you have to do is take the product of the binomial and the divisor, and then you just divide that by the total remaining cards in the deck divided by this number, and then the total draws you would in the division. You know, once you get the top part, then all you have to do is divide that by the total number of, you know, and that will give you an answer of pretty good. All right, now that we've solved and did all the heavy lifting and the number crunching, I want to talk about a few key points regarding how to build a deck and things you should keep in mind. So a couple of East top tier tips. Tip number 1, the more draw and search cards you include in your deck, the lower you can run some of your level 3 ratios. So what do I mean by that? I've got cards like Davis here, who on play allows you to look at the top 3 cards of your deck and grab 1 blue and 1 green Digimon. Because this is a blue and green deck, that pretty much means almost every card in the deck is grabbable by this guy. So again, these cards being able to search out Digimon that you need or cards that you're looking for really help with the reliability, and that allows you to run fewer level 3s if you need to. Additionally, I run a couple of options that do the same thing. You guys over in the West are just getting access to some of the memory boost cards as of the time of this video being made. These lets you search out the top 4 cards of your deck and grab a card of the assigned color. So again, the more searches that we add, the less level 3s that we have to include in the deck. Of course, always keep your ratios in mind. However, there are 3 things that I believe every deck needs. If you've seen any of my Shadowverse videos, I did a pretty popular video on this as well. I'll probably do one for Digimon. But every deck needs 3 things, and those are, first, having a game plan. You need to find what your winning condition is, your win condition. Second, you need to have draw. This allows you to get to your win condition. And then third, you need to have some sort of, or some form of removal. some way to get rid of big threats on the board who hamper your game plan or ways to stop your opponent from winning. Looking at some of the game plans for the deck, so for the Jessamon deck, I think the game plan is pretty straightforward. You want to build to your Jessamon as quickly as possible, use his effects to generate Sistermon who buff him up, and then start swinging on security over and over and over again. And then using things like a combination of Jessamon as well as Omnimon to be able to make multiple swings in a turn and hopefully end the game very quickly. Meanwhile, taking a look at the Imperial Dramon deck, what you really want to do for this is you want to get as many of your jamming swings off as possible. Things like the Vmon here. We've got the level 4 X Vmon as well, who has jamming and then gives jamming to a Digimon whenever it's Digivolved, if it has free in its type or in its Imperial Dramon. And then finally, you've got Imperial Dramon himself, who has jamming as well as unrest all of your jamming Digimon at the same time. Some cards that might help me with card draw, for example, in these decks, I have the Stingmon here, who on Inheritance, if you have a blue Digimon on the board, he allows you to draw a card whenever you attack. And then in the Jessamon deck, I've got cards like the Sistermon Blanc, who again is level 3, but she allows me to draw a card on play. So these kinds of cards help me to further the draw in the deck and search out the cards that I need, alongside things like the Red Memory Boost and the searches for like Huckmon or Vmon. An example of removal in both of these decks might be something like the Pile Dramon here, who whenever you jog or Digivolve him allows you to take an opponent's 6,000 DP or lower Digimon and just put it at the bottom of their deck. I have cards like Mega Death, which allows you to take a Digimon, rest it, and then just put the rested card back in your opponent's hand. Or something like Kakaitis Breath, which allows you to just send a Digimon back to your opponent's hand as well. And then, for example, in the Jessamon deck, you've got cards like Gaia Force, which is just outright removal of a Digimon, albeit kind of expensive. And then we've got other cards like Atomic Blaster, which allow you to destroy Digimon whose total number of DP equals up to 8,000. Whether that's, you know, 2 4,000s, a 3,000 and a 5,000, 8 1,000s, or 4 2,000s, you know. The last tip that I want to talk about today is about how you want to think about your memory usage for each turn. Now, this is going a bit beyond the scope of the video, but I do think it's an important point to note just because of the tamers. And whenever you have a tamer out, typically you want to go for your memory tamers. When I say a memory tamer, I mean a tamer who has the effect of, at the start of your turn, if you have less than 3 memory, go to 3 memory. This way that you can kind of guarantee a set amount of value that you can get out of every single turn. Because of that, I think that the game has really evolved around a strategy of being able to use at least 3 memory to Digivolve and then attack with a Digimon. So what does that mean? In cases like Jessamon, it's very simple. You just use 3... You play your Tamer, get 3 memory, and then you play your Jessamon, who is 3 memory, and then you can immediately attack. In cases like Imperial Dramon, it's a bit less clear-cut. You can see that this guy actually is a 5 cost to Digivolve. However, if the Digimon that he Digivolves from is Pile Dramon or Dinobimon, then you can reduce the cost of his Digivolution by 2, meaning he's a 3 cost Digivolve, and then you can attack immediately afterward. And if you have Davis on the field, then that allows you to have that 3 memory to make that swing and the Digivolve in the same turn, and then do something else. And so yeah, that's pretty much it. I don't want to go too far beyond the scope of this video. I think it's already getting pretty long, so I'll cut it off here. If there's other like basic topics you guys love to hear about, if you're just starting out Digimon, or you have some questions about how you should be thinking about the game, I'd love to answer those in further videos, so do me a favor, put those in the comments below. Also, before we finish things up, do me a favor, if you got this far in the video, and you really liked it, or you liked some of the other videos that I made, please do consider hitting the subscribe button. And yeah, again, if there's any other videos you guys want me to talk about regarding some of the basics of the game, so again, don't forget to leave those in the comments below. Thanks again for watching, guys, and I'll catch you next time. Now, if you're not familiar with hypergeometric distribution, here's a quick crash course on it. Post editing is going to be a bitch.